All right, people, we back. Victory and Vices podcast. Me, Rory Spooner, and James Veck. This is the Deadline Day podcast. So we got 2 episodes coming out. Me and Becky are going to be doing this Manchester United one, and then me and Reese on Wednesday are going to be doing another one. It's going to be dedicated to all the other transfers that are going on. So again, to all our new subscribers, thank you. It means the world. Everybody has followed us on at IG and Twitter again and interacted with us as well, which we always appreciate. Thank you too. So, as you've seen by the title, this is the Manchester United episode. So me and Becky, being Manchester United fans, we felt like we could do this justice. So United fans, make sure you get in the comments below. Let us know your opinion. Follow us, interact with us again. You know, we very much want to hear what you guys have to say. And I think, Becky, as we discussed before we just come on, it's going to reflect, their opinions will essentially reflect ours, because we got an awful lot to say. Right, so let's kick off. So, transfer window has been, I don't know how to describe it. It's been a 22-week marathon. So, what was your opinion initially, Becky, on United's transfer window? If I said to you now, grade it out of 10, what would you give it initially? Based upon, obviously, the fact that this is still deadline day and there's, you know, things are still fluctuating, but what would you give it out of 10?
Yeah, so at the moment, being as there's been 2, one confirmed and another confirmed signing for United imminently today, I would probably grade it about a 5, 4 or 5. And if you'd asked me before the Telles and Cavani signings, I probably would have given it about a 3. So it's improved slightly in my eyes, because obviously we've signed a left back, which obviously I'm sure we'll come on to in a moment, and a striker. But yeah, overall, I think this has been a poor window, and the deals have been negotiated terribly, the ones that we have negotiated, apart from Van de Beek. And I don't think we've really addressed most of the problems that the squad has. So yeah, about a 4 or 5 out of 10.
Yeah, I was going to be generous and give it a 6. But that is a very generous 6. So yeah, let's unpack what's gone on then. So there was the lockdown period where I think Gary Neville rightly pointed out, you use that time to establish your budget, you use that time to do the framework of a deal, you use that time to negotiate with agents, and you essentially lay the foundations for the deals you want to create. Now, Manchester United being Manchester United, and we've done an episode on this previously, me and Becky have, so if you want to go back and watch that, go back and watch it. They are run by spreadsheet guys, they're not football guys. Now, what they struggle with is a player's worth. They don't understand the player's worth that's incoming, and they don't understand the player's worth that's outgoing. Ed Woodward, Matt Judge, whomever else is on that sort of hierarchy, they're not football guys. And it pains me to say, as long as they are in charge of Manchester United Football Club, Manchester United Football Club will never win it. And I go as far as to say that with the Glazer family. So just as a quick public service announcement for Manchester United fans that are watching it, like us. If you really love Manchester United, do not subscribe to MUTV. Do not buy replica shirts. Do not go to games should they come back. Don't bother. Don't give the Glazer family any more of your money, because the only way they will go is if you start to impact on them financially. Now, the Glazer family, we'll come on to the Sancho Chase in a minute, right? Because it's just utterly bewildering. But just to touch upon what you said, Becky, they haven't really given Ole Gunnar Solskjaer anything that he wanted or needed. So if we look at it from back to front, United needed a centre-back, they needed a left-back, they needed potentially another defensive midfielder to replace Matic, but it's not really that urgent. They needed a right winger, they needed a striker. I felt like they needed another creative midfielder just to come in when Pogba or Fernandes isn't there. So you're looking around 6 players in a window. That's a key window. So Solskjaer now has squeezed every last drop of life out of that team. They've limped across the line. He's used the first 11, God knows how many times towards the end of last season, Becky, as we pointed out, because he doesn't trust what's behind them. And now he's done all of this, and the Glazer family have sandbagged him. As far as I'm concerned, they've thrown him under the bus. So what's your take on it very quickly?
Yeah, I've pointed this out recently to a few people in terms of the criticism that's come for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, mainly yesterday after the big defeat and the Crystal Palace game, and even at points last season when United were poor. Now, there's people that criticise Solskjaer. They're the same people that criticised Mourinho when he was in charge of United. Same people that criticised Louis van Gaal. The same people that criticised David Moyes. And you have to ask yourselves the question, can it really be all of their faults that the club isn't really making any proper progress for the amount of investment that's going in? And I'll answer that question. And I don't think it is all of their faults. We've alluded to it already. I think, as you've said, it's the fault of the hierarchy above the manager at the club, which is Ed Woodward, Matt Judge, and the Glazers. Now, I mentioned this to Reece yesterday. When Jose Mourinho was in charge, he had that season where they finished second in the league. It's the closest we've come to winning the league, which was also extremely far away still since Fergie left.
Yeah.
And you thought, United finished second year. That's a huge improvement in league position-wise to where they've been in the previous years to that after Fergie. And what did they back Jose Mourinho with? They give him Lee Grant, Fred, and Diogo Dallo.
They did.
If my memory serves me correct.
Indeed, yeah.
So Jose Mourinho asked for even Perisic, who went on to win the Champions League and a treble. He asked for Alderweireld, and he was told on numerous occasions, there was more players than that. He set out his list of who he wanted and who he needed to close this gap, and he got given those 3 players I just mentioned. Now, I'm hearing things on Twitter every time Solskjaer has a bad game or we lose a game, get rid of him, bring in Pochettino. What do these people expect to change? Am I saying that, you've mentioned Solskjaer, the substitute teacher, blah, blah, blah. Is he the solution? No. But is he the problem? I don't think he's the problem either.
I agree.
You can say, like the game yesterday, there's an element of bad coaching and this and that. And yeah, there is, and we'll come on to that. But you can bring Pochettino in. I don't think much changes. You can bring Pep Guardiola in or Jurgen Klopp in. I still don't think we make any proper progress. I still don't think we win the league. Whether you have them in for 3-4 years, and I still don't think we win any real major trophies or make any real progress. The problem is at the core of the club. It's the glorified accountants, as we like to call him, who's great at signing a deal with Chevrolet, but he's not great when it comes to negotiating any kind of transfer.
Yeah, no, that's facts. I'm not going to argue that at all. I think a lot of people watching this will agree with us. I think it's obvious United need to streamline how they do transfers. They need a director of football. It's not necessarily the most popular method with all clubs, but when you have spreadsheet guys at the club that really don't know player value or player worth, how do you ask them to then go and put money into a player? Because they don't know what any of those players' value is. You touched upon it, Becky. I mean, if we go back over the managers, right, just very quickly. Now, David Moyes, I don't think was ever a Manchester United manager, right? But if you give him, I don't know, what was it, like a 7-year contract? That first season, you got to back him heavily. And they got Marouane Fellaini, and they overpaid for him, and they missed his release clause. They went hell for leather for Leighton Baines. Why they had such a hard-on for Leighton Baines, I don't know. I can only assume it was Moyes related. Yeah, and then they spent the rest of the summer chasing Toni Kroos. They spent it chasing, who else? Ronaldo, Gareth Bale, Cesc Fabregas, all these people, right? And none of them came. And they all got used for bigger and better moves or better contracts. And United chased shadows, and we all went, God, this is fucking ridiculous. But we did think, you know what? Okay, maybe it will improve as time goes on. So then Van Gaal obviously picks up a few signings that were decent signings. We were all quite impressed at the time. Depay and Shaw, they were good young players. And
Falcao, Di Maria.
Yeah, I know Di Maria I was very excited for. But that didn't quite work out, and United could never really get to grips with Van Gaal's football, and the players, they couldn't really get to grips with it. And Van Gaal again came out. He said, "Look, I need players to fit into this system. The ones I've got, they don't work." And Van Gaal came out recently and he said, I asked for Thomas Muller and Neymar and all these other players, and Ed Woodward was always talking about how we're the biggest club in the world, and he never got any of them. And then Mourinho comes along. Mourinho replaces him. And United all of a sudden then, Mourinho saying, I need another centre-back. I need an Alderweireld. I need, someone that's commanding, someone that's got Premier League experience. So in the end, Mourinho wanted Maguire. Mourinho missed out on Maguire. United overspent the season after. They ended up paying 80 million for Maguire when they could have had him for 70 million. And
Yeah.
Mourinho didn't get what he wanted. And you touched upon Perisic, Becky. And, again, people that are on Twitter can maybe fact check me on this if this is true or not. But the quote that I heard that seems very accurate is that Ed Woodward and Jose Mourinho fell out over Ivan Perisic. And the idea was Mourinho had met Ivan Perisic. He said, I want you in my side. Ivan Perisic, very good football player, by the way. And Mourinho was like, look, you're the guy that I want to compete on the left-hand side. So Mourinho lined up a deal for 50 million, and Ed Woodward turned around and said, we're not spending that type of money on an Eastern European footballer because there's no marketability, which again is fucking disgraceful if that is true. So Mourinho gets sandbagged, and then Mourinho now is a proud man. He's not a Solskjaer. See, Solskjaer's very lucky to be in that position. Mourinho knows he can get a top job anywhere. So Mourinho called him out. Now, Solskjaer won't do that because he'll never get another job like this. But now Solskjaer is getting thrown under the bus. And like you said, Becky, the cycle just repeats itself, and it continues to repeat itself. And if Pochettino came in, he'd get them to the Champions League. They wouldn't back him correctly, and we're back at square one. Fair shout?
That's exactly what has been happening and what will happen. I agree. Yeah, agree.
It's a tough one to take as United fans, because me and Becky, as much as we love football, we love United more, and we want United to be successful. We want to enjoy football. We want to enjoy transfers, and I feel like fans at Manchester United are being taken for granted a little bit. I fail to understand how you can have a 22-week window and leave everything to the last minute, and I mean pretty much everything. Just to touch on Van der Beek very quickly as well, because obviously we've been over his signing already. Van der Beek is essentially a Manchester United player because Real Madrid didn't want him, not because Manchester United were his first option. He's there by default. Now, is he a player that they needed? Yes. They need someone to compete with Fernandes and Pogba to offer that creativity and some depth in the middle of the pitch. I fail to understand why, if he was available, that deal wasn't done in July. I just cannot understand why they didn't just go, you know what? We have a great relationship with Edwin van der Sar. We've got our budget set out. We know who we want. Let's make a positive impact. Boom. We'll get him 1st of July. We'll make it happen. It's done. Put the bid in. We're good to go. We're good money. Didn't happen. So now we'll move forward, Becky, from that absolute shambolic hierarchy that's in charge to the Jadon Sancho deal. Now, United, as we pointed out just now, they're known for transfer sagas. Oh my God, they run on, and you look at the players United have missed out on, from Hazard to Bale to Neymar to Ramos to Fabregas. We could be here all day talking about them. Like, bro, every summer, every window, it's the same thing. Now, United and that hierarchy, what they have done in the past, and it's common knowledge, right, is they have bullied clubs into submission. They have gone, okay, Wan-Bissaka, we're going to start the bid in at 24 million. They end up paying 42 million. They did the same with Bruno Fernandes. Bruno Fernandes took, we say it took a whole January transfer window. It took longer than a January transfer window because it was going on previously. They wanted him before that. But it took them the best part of 30 days to sort that out because they kept trying to lowball Sporting Lisbon. They did the same with Leicester. They lowballed Leicester and they lowballed them until they got to the point where Leicester were like, look, either pay it or just fuck off. And they had to end up paying the money. And the Sancho thing is the same, but Dortmund are a proud club and they didn't cave, and I admire that about them.
The thing is that history tells us with these kind of sagas that United don't have a great track record of, as you said, bullying clubs into submission. If we were sitting here now and we're looking back at these Maguire deals, the Fernandes deals, Wan-Bissaka, and what actually happened was we went in with a low offer, we played hardball, we were stubborn, we persevered, but at the end of the day, we got them for a good value. You'd say, well, that approach works because the United are being just as stubborn as a selling club, and they've held out and they've got a good deal. But that isn't what happens. What happens is, like you say, Spooner, we try to lowball them. We try playing hardball. We try getting them for a certain price, and usually the selling club is over here and United are over here, and they need to try and meet somewhere here, and United refuse to go anywhere near there for the whole duration of the window, and right at the end they go, okay, we'll pay it. We'll pay what you're asking for. And all this time they've lost in doing that, and they failed to address other areas. Now, you mentioned, obviously, Ed Woodward, and when Alex Ferguson left, or he retired, there was a lot of change. His backroom staff left. Some of the old guards left, the Rios, the Vidic, the Evras. It was a big change, but I'm pretty sure I've said this before. The biggest downgrade for me was David Gill being replaced by Ed Woodward.
Yeah.
Because if this was Fergie and David Gill negotiating any of these transfers, I get it's a bit more of an attractive proposition under Ferguson. But if it was David Gill, these would have been done and dusted within the opening weeks of the transfer window. That's what happened every time. And you just look at the way that Ed Woodward is trying to approach his transfer business. It's laughable. It's becoming laughable. Other clubs, fans of other clubs, all over social media are starting to laugh at Manchester United. And they deserve it. They deserve to be laughed at because I don't know what they're trying to play. You know, Donny van de Beek, you mentioned we could have done that sooner. And I agree with you. But you look at how we've dealt with our other targets, and it makes the Van de Beek deal look good, like how swiftly we dealt with that one. That's the only shining light for me in this transfer window for United. Donny van de Beek, 9 out of 10 people would tell you that's a good signing. He didn't overpay for him, got him for a good price, he's a good player, and he already looks decent when he's playing. Pogba's looking a bit ropey, so it wouldn't at all surprise me to see him starting in the coming weeks. But then the Jadon Sancho situation, it's exhausting, isn't it? We've spoke about this all summer long.
Yeah.
And what did I say to you on the last podcast when United made a bid apparently of £91 million? They just waited 20 weeks to bid an amount that Borussia Dortmund told them, if you bid this, we'll reject it. And then they waited 20 weeks and then they bid it. And the deal's over now, and you know, I'm looking at the deadline day behind me. The deal's over, and they were saying earlier on Sky Sports that United are going to revisit this deal next year, which makes zero sense because everybody else is going to be in for next year now. So this was the moment to do the Sancho deal, and it could have, and needed to be done early on in the window, and they're a laughing stock, aren't they, when it comes to things like this?
Look, you hit the nail on the head. It is absolutely exhausting. Like, I just, for the first weeks of that window, I just sit there and I think, well what are you all doing? Like, what are you all doing? Your job is to make Manchester United a successful football club. Now, the Jadon Sancho situation is interesting because I think United will go back in for him. I think they'll get him. By all accounts, personal terms were agreed. Agents' fees were agreed. They pretty much got everything laid out bar the fee. And like you said, Becky, for fuck, why are you do you know what I mean? If I'm selling you a car, right, and I'm saying, look, the car's worth 15 grand, and for 22 weeks you offer me 9 grand. In the end, I'm just going to tell you to fuck off, right? Because it's disrespectful, do you know what I mean? You're trying to lowball me and you're taking the piss. And that's what they did. And I feel sorry for Jadon Sancho because by all accounts, he had his heart set on that move to Manchester United. You know, he's missed the game against Bayern Munich. He didn't really want to play in that game. You know, they said he had some sort of illness. We know he didn't, right? He was at Tammy Abraham's partying with Ben Chilwell and you know, getting down with the chicas. Do you know what I mean? So good on him for that. But it's just, it baffles me, bro. I genuinely am at a loss for words at how people can earn these massive salaries every year and be so incompetent.
Yeah, and I think I tweeted this within the last sort of week or so. They've put all this time and effort and resources into trying to sign Jadon Sancho when all of our real areas for concern were exposed yesterday for the world to see, right? And the saying rings true, when it rains, it pours, right? And it poured down on Old Trafford yesterday, live on TV, right? I'll come back to that in a second. And people are probably wondering, why are they trying so hard to get Jadon Sancho when their backline is awful? It is awful. And like I said previously, they started negotiating Sancho at the beginning of the transfer window, which we said at the time, that's fine, because he would be a massive upgrade to our squad, and then we can move to other areas. However, if you don't get that deal done early, you don't have the time to move on to these other areas.
Yeah.
So now the situation just looks bleak because in the game yesterday, all right, Martial got sent off, okay, and I think most people share the opinion that 6 of one, half dozen the other, that situation. The Irish should have both had a yellow or both had a red.
Yeah.
But United were diabolical before the red card. They conceded 2 goals in 5 minutes after going 1-0 up. And then they, rather than doing what most teams would do, all right, well, let's keep the scoreline down, keep this respectable, or try and even nick an equaliser, they went on to concede another 4 goals at home to Tottenham. Harry Maguire for the first goal looked like he was pulling Luke Shaw out the way of the ball.
He really did, though, bro. That's the thing. He really did.
Which, like, I have no idea what's happened there. And it just, I struggle to find the words to describe how awful that defence is, how awful that defence has been for quite some time. And if the average fan like me and you can see it, and everyone can see it, why they would fail to have a transfer policy in place that would address it.
Yeah. Do you know what?
Outrageous.
It's interesting, right? Because I get that COVID is affecting football. And they reckon Manchester United are losing around 5 million a game where there's no fans in the stadium. And again, I understand that will impact on your budget as well. But if you're going to use phrases like we can do things that other clubs can't do, or you better believe you're going to back that up. And you better believe other clubs are going to make you back that up as well. Like the Glazer family have taken huge sums of money out to Manchester United. People sometimes forget, and as fans, we're a little, we do go a little championship manager every now and then, right? We all go a little bit rogue. I understand the debt has to be paid first. United is 600 million in debt. It's a lot of money, and it's growing by the season. And that's not an easy amount of debt to manage. So that's why, we'd all like someone else to clear that debt, come in and take over. So if you are 600 million in debt and you're losing money every single game, I expect you to know what your budget is come the start of the window. Now, come the start of the window, bid for Jadon Sancho and go, right, this is our budget. We're not going any higher. And if Dortmund say no, move on. United kept going on and on and on, and they got absolutely nowhere. And like you said, the whole thing was exhausting. And, I think they'll go back in for Jadon Sancho. I think they'll get Jadon Sancho as well, only because I don't think there's going to be a big scrum for him next season. I think if there's no fans in the stadiums, a lot of teams are going to struggle financially. Barcelona are going to struggle to get rid of Dembele. They want Depay. That might not happen today, but it might happen in the future. They also want Lautaro Martinez to replace Messi, so that means Sancho won't be going there. Mbappe is going to be leaving next season PSG, by all accounts. He will go straight to Real Madrid. They won't want Sancho. Dortmund won't sell him to Bayern. He won't go to PSG. He won't go to Liverpool because Liverpool's front three is established. They ain't going anywhere for at least another 2 years. Arsenal and Spurs can't afford him. Chelsea don't need him. And City need another striker. So that just leaves United. So I think he will end up there. The interesting thing is Sancho, come the end of this season, will go into his final 2 years of his deal. And that's usually the stick or twist season, because if Dortmund keep him for another season, he's only got the 1 year left and he'll lose a lot of value. So they will have to sell him at the end of the season. So that's going to be interesting. But the word you used to sum it up, mate, is exhausting. I'm exhausted talking about it, to be honest with you. We talked about it for 22 weeks. At the start it was fun, but now, it's just ridiculous. But Sancho aside, we'll move on to Ousmane Dembele. Now, depending on when this video comes out, he may or may not be here. From what I saw reading from Guillaume Balaguer on Twitter, it's off. Again, when we talk about a last roll of the dice, and we mentioned it in our WhatsApp group, it's a bit like doing your Christmas shopping on Christmas Eve. You're really, really running out of ideas when you're looking for Ousmane Dembele. Now, again, he is an absolute wizard when he's fully fit and he's confident. Let me just point out a few things about Ousmane Dembele. One, he plays Xbox till about 5 in the morning. He can't show up for training on time, and he lives in Barcelona. This isn't -4 in Manchester, right? He's getting up and it's about 22 degrees. It's a beautiful day. He's struggling to get up. He can't manage his fitness. He's an absolute demon when he's fully fit, which is never. And United wanted to take him on loan. Okay, fair enough. You want to take a little risk in him, you could do that. But if you're going to take that type of risk, you may as well have signed James Rodriguez for a free. James Rodriguez is lighting up the Premier League. There's a guy who had a point to prove, and he's consistently fit. Now, Ousmane Dembele, does that shock you that United went in for him?
No, not really, because it stinks of, and you kind of touched upon it, it stinks of desperation. And there's an element sometimes, this has happened before, where deals that they've pursued, the big deals, aren't coming off, and then sometimes they almost want to give it the element or make it look like they're trying to do multiple deals by making late inquiries for multiple players. Now, Dembele being one of those, and what I keep seeing in social media is United are saying we want to take him on loan. It's too risky, we don't want to buy him. Barcelona say we only want to sell him. And we say, okay, we'll take him on loan and we'll pay all his wages. And they go, did you not hear us? We only want to sell him. At that point, United should then go, right, okay, this isn't going to work, is it? But they don't. And the negotiations, and I say the negotiations, whatever they may be, keep going on. And the other one that's come to the fore today and in the past few days is Ismaila Sarr.
Yeah.
And it's on Sky Sports right now. United make inquiries for Ismaila Sarr. I mean, are these the kind of alternatives that we're looking at? You're looking at, as you've mentioned, a Dembele that when he's fit, which is never, is a wonder kid, but he's one of the most injury-prone players around for his age. And you're looking at Sarr then, that got relegated with Watford. Did he look decent? Yeah, of course he did.
Yeah.
He got relegated with Watford. And then Watford are saying to us, we're not interested in a loan deal. We're pricing him up for 45 to 50 million pounds. Of course, Watford don't want a loan deal. They've been relegated. They need the money. They want to try and sell him. But here we are again in the same situation. Manchester United trying to make it look like they're making inquiries for a Watford forward, a championship player on deadline day.
It's like you said, it stinks of idiocy. It stinks of hypocrisy. When they talk about we're having a cultural reboot or a cultural reset, you've done nothing of the sort. Do you know what I mean? A lot of the bravado and the bluster is purely just for them to flex their muscles. They're not really serious about these players. If you were really serious about Jadon Sancho, you'd have either bid for him or you'd have moved on. If you're really serious about Ousmane Dembele, you'd have bid for him before the season even started, knowing that team limped across the line. Sarr, for me, very much feels like a third choice. He is a good player. Like, don't get me wrong, he's got a lot of potential. He's a solid little prospect. He could go to another side and do very well. What United need, though, is to advance on the quality that's already there. And Sarr, is he better than what's there? I don't know. I don't think he is. Not for 45 to 50 million, he's not. And Watford were on about, if you do take him on loan, it's something to do with, I was just reading it here now on Twitter while you were talking. There was a £25 million penalty if they choose not to activate a buy option. So basically it was a loan to buy where United loan him. If they do buy him, it'll cost 45 million. And if they don't buy him, they'd have to pay 25 million. But it's ridiculous. And these are the deals you set yourself up for when you don't plan properly, because you're now scrambling around. And those clubs know, they're like, oh, we've really got them where we want them here, because desperate people do desperate things. And United are desperate for a right winger. Now, again, there was talk the other day about selling Daniel James to Leeds. Now, we all know, if you watch this podcast, how I feel about Daniel James. Daniel James, for me, will go on to be a solid Premier League player. But he's not a Manchester United player. He never has been. I watched Daniel James multiple times for Swansea before he came. Even went to watch him live. And I'll tell you this, he will go on to be a solid Premier League player, but he is not a top-level player. So if a club like Leeds come in and say, well, we'll give you 25 million for him, and that 25 million could be the difference between you affording Jadon Sancho, you better take that 25 million. But again, what you have is spreadsheet guys controlling the football and things. And they said, you know what? If we sell Daniel James now, it'll look like we can't develop young players. A club that has had over 4,000 games with academy prospects on the pitch, you're worried about people thinking you can't develop young players. You can't turn water into wine. Daniel James is never going to be that. We've seen enough of him now to know. We know Solskjaer doesn't trust him either. So if you can take that money and put it towards a Sancho, you've got to do it. But they never did. And again, bro, it's exhausting. It's bewildering, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and we look at something else that's transpired in the last couple of days. Now we talk about the Edinson Cavani deal.
Yeah, let's move on to Cavani. Yeah, talk to me about that. How do you feel about?
Yeah, and obviously we spoke about these other deals, the Dembele, the Ismaila Sarr we talked about, or used words like panic, desperation, shopping last minute. Now, the Cavani deal, this one is a tricky one in ways because it's not a great deal, but then it also could turn out to not be a bad deal, if that kind of makes sense. Because
yeah, I'm with you.
Because there's no way that it was United's transfer strategy to sign a 33-year-old striker 48 hours before the deadline.
No.
That can't be your strategy. That's how not to do business 101. Now, what that does think of is they've had targets like Sancho and perhaps others that we don't know of that they've tried to look at and have failed. We mentioned players. If we're looking at a striker that United needs, someone like a Harry Kane, a Jimenez, those kind of players, and it didn't look like we were coming close to signing anybody like that. Now, they let Romelu Lukaku go, and he was the only player that we had of that kind of sort because we don't have a striker like that at the moment.
Yeah.
Now, Rich likes to mention Martial. And how good of a striker Martial is, and we divide opinions on that because I feel that whilst he can be a goal getter and he very much plays in spells and he does play as our forward, but he's not that type of forward, is he, Martial?
No.
Now, they let Lukaku go and they replaced him with Ighalo, and now they're trying to fill that void with another dimension of a forward with a 33-year-old Edinson Cavani. I said this to Reece, he could be Falcao, he could be Ibrahimovic, because he has the ability to be either of those, or just like both of those. He has that kind of striking ability, and there's no doubt that he has been a great player over the years. I read something like he scored 180-something goals in 260 or 70 PSG games.
Yeah, he's a great player.
Which is a great return. I know it's the French league, but he brings with him a huge amount of Champions League experience. But he's closer to 34 than he is to 33. Now, if he plays in some of these games and he starts to score goals like we know he can, then it could very much be a situation where you go, this has worked out quite well, this. But it wasn't the way they wanted to do it, was it? And that's the key, is you can get lucky, can't you? You can get lucky. And when you get lucky, that's fine. But United aren't in a situation where they can afford to roll the dice and try and get lucky. They're in a situation where they need to be making confident moves in good time and good planning, and Cavani definitely isn't that.
Yeah, I'm not going to disagree with anything. Part of the whole, what we all call cultural resetting or cultural reboot of that club was to attract the best young players and to play football a certain way. It was going to be fast, it was going to be fluid. There's no room for a Romelu Lukaku because we don't need a traditional number 9. Now, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer went for Erling Haaland, who is a very mobile. He's more of your traditional number 9, but he's very, very mobile.
Yeah.
So I understand why he would have wanted an Erling Haaland in there. And if they had got him, it would have been great. It just wasn't to be at this point. Maybe it will be later down the line. But when you talk about a cultural resetting of the club, and then you go and buy a Cavani, which is the type of player that you said you never wanted anyway in a playing style. And then B, the type of player you said you would never go for again, in a sense that you're not looking to go through a Di Maria, a Falcao, or Sanchez situation again. They've just let themselves down because, like you said, no way did Ole Gunnar Solskjaer have Cavani as his go-to striker. Ed Woodward has been offered him. And Ed Woodward has gone, look, we can get Cavani. And Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, because his hands are tied and there is so little time, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer wants to be a success. He knows he can't do that with Ighalo. You can't go and get top 4 again with just Ighalo. You need someone in there. And that's the only option he's got. A bit like Mourinho, when Mourinho, was going for all of these players, and Ed Woodward said, you know what, I can get you Fred. And Mourinho went, well, fuck, I'm going to have to take him because there's no one else. Do you know what I mean? There is nobody else. And Cavani, I mean, who are United really planning on getting as a striker this summer? Because we know Gary Neville's mentioned it hundreds of times. United need a striker. So with all your scouting department, right, and the money you have and the people you have worldwide, is that all you could come up with is Cavani? Like, I just can't quite fathom that he's getting an, and again, fact check me, people, if I'm wrong on this. His agent's getting a 10 million signing on fee, or 10 million each. Bro, between Cavani's signing on fee, his wages, and that's a huge sum of money for someone that's going to be there a season, maybe.
And the thing is, right, the Cavani situation is that Cavani has been a free agent all window, right? And nobody's taken him up on a deal because of the fees being demanded by his agent, and just the difficulty of the deal, because the amount that's being demanded by Cavani and his team is too much for the type of clubs that he was being linked with. I think he was being linked with Benfica, Atletico. And they just looked at this deal and they've gone, sorry, not for us. Not at this stage in your career, not for this money.
Yeah.
And it's like you said, this is why the Cavani deal is a slight panic, because he's been available all summer. And if he was their top target, United would have had him 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks ago, if not more. But he wasn't their top target. Now, do I think that Cavani is going to be similar to a Sanchez in terms of he's only coming just because of the money? No, I don't, because Cavani has got plenty of money. I'm sure he got paid a handsome amount of money a week at PSG. And I believe he's been there since 2013, 2014. So I don't think that he's completely money motivated. Perhaps, there's an element that he wants to see what he's got left. Can he prove himself in the Premier League? Can I be another Ibrahimovic? Have I still got that left in me? Because he does have the ability. It's just a question of, if given the chance, would he be able to adapt to the Premier League at this stage in his career? So, I don't necessarily think that, like I've said, that this is an awful deal, but by no means was it ever or was it even on the table for us for the large majority of this window? Like you said, Edward was giving Solskjaer an ultimatum. He's gone, well, it looks like it's Cavani or nobody. And he's gone, well, let's try Cavani then. What else are we going to do?
Yeah, well, what else are you going to do? I mean, if we sat down and looked at their list of players in July, I don't think Cavani would have been on it. I'm conflicted because, on the one hand, it's a huge sum of money. But at the same time, would I rather his agent and Cavani got that money, or would I rather that money stayed in Florida and went to the Glazers? I'd rather had it, to be honest.
People drive hard bargains, don't they? And agents are agents. They are what they are. It's not like they're an unknown quantity. We know exactly how agents like to do things, and they like to have a large slice of the pie. And in certain situations, it is, well, so be it. But yeah, it is a huge amount of money, and that's why other clubs haven't gone for it. But United being United, they've taken up on it last minute. So I said earlier, didn't I? This could be they could get lucky with this, because he does have real quality. And people are talking about Thiago Silva, obviously opposite ends of the pitch, similar sort of age. They came from the same club. We know that both of them have real quality still about them. Of course they do. And the question with Thiago Silva that everyone was asking was, can he do it in the Premier League at this stage in his career? Can he adapt? Can he deal with the pace? Do you know, those sort of questions? And I think those are very similar questions that people can ask about Cavani. At his age, can he still do it in the Premier League? It's the same situation, just into the pitch.
And they're valid questions to ask, because as much as he's achieved, he still now has that final point to prove, I think. And it would be a great, farewell in football if he decides to end his career at Manchester United, and he plays very well. But like I said, I am conflicted on it. On the one hand, I'm happy that he's there, because Martial has completely fucked it up now for the next few games. So, he's a better option than Ighalo. But does Cavani want to be there? Will Manchester United even on his radar? I mean, it's hard to say.
Yeah, and he'll come straight into that team now, most likely, because he'll be registered. The international break comes next, and Martial will have to serve his 3-game ban. So it looks like, providing that he's fit, he could well start against Newcastle, and then against PSG, his old club, I think on the 20th of October.
Yeah, well, do you know what? If he gets off to a good start, all of a sudden Anthony Martial isn't going to be in that team anymore. And then how does Anthony Martial react? Because when Ibrahimovic came in, he went through a bit of a sulking stage, and then he fell out with Mourinho. And that's Martial in a nutshell. This is why you need to have serious competition at a football club. Because if United signed Erling Haaland when they should have done, or could have done, Martial wouldn't be near that side. He wouldn't be anywhere near that Manchester United side right now. And Martial, as you said, he plays well in spells. He will go missing for probably a third of the season. So you need consistency to be great. And maybe Cavani will bring it, maybe he won't. But look, he's there. The one signing, I'm going to throw a name out here now, Becky, and you might not have heard of him. There's a player who I was going to save for a transfer video come January, but I'm going to drop it in now very quickly. There's a player called Patson Daka. Have you ever heard of him at all? Basically, he plays for Red Bull Salzburg. So I went away and I was doing a bit of history and I thought, well, there's got to be some other strikers out here. Surely, I mean, who's the best young strikers in Europe that are sort of not in the top league scoring goals that look ready for a mover? And this kid, he's only 21, right? And look, I remember the name. I'm just going to throw it out there now. Patson Daka. He's a very, very good football player. United could have done a lot worse than bid for him. But look, that's just me doing my, my own scouting. But anyway, we'll move on from Cavani. He's coming in, and we wish him well. Alex Telles, or Teles, as somebody who's Portuguese.
Yeah.
I'll go with Alex Telles for now until I am correctly. Until someone corrects me at least. Alex Telles. So, okay, with Alex Telles now. Again, he's a very necessary signing. We went through the whole Reguilon thing. I'm a big fan of Reguilon. I thought he was superb on the weekend. I know United were awful, right? But I thought Reguilon looked absolutely terrific, bombing down the left for Spurs. Telles will give United some of that. I think he's a bit more defensively stable than Reguilon is. Whether he has Reguilon's potential remains to be seen. Telles is coming into sort of the prime years of his career. So United, again, a player that's very well equipped to play at the top level. He's done very well at Porto. He's done well in the Champions League. Again, look, when we talk about the fee, right, the fee ranges from 15 million to 18 million, depending on what you read. The fact United are arguing over like 6 million, right, it baffles me that a club that big are going to waste that much time. Because again, this could have been done a month ago. Do you know what I mean, bro? Like, why are you going to argue over 6 million for left back you need? Because Luke Shaw, his time has come. He's run his race at Manchester United now. Either this competition is either going to make him or break him. You pressure bust pipes. You accept the challenge or you fold. And Luke Shaw, to me, looks like he might fold because I've not seen anything from him at the start of the season thus far to suggest that he's in any position to be Manchester United's full-time left back. Yeah,
and you mentioned about the fee for Telles. I read yesterday it was 15.8 million. You said it ranges close to 18 to 20 million.
Yeah.
And you think if the 15 million pound fee is accurate, because I believe he's got less than a year left on his contract, and you would say under normal circumstances, if we didn't take into consideration how late this was in the window, that's a pretty good deal. You get a quite highly regarded fullback, who, by the way, like Bruno Fernandes in the Portuguese league, for a fullback, has a very good assist and goals record. And it sounds like he could be very dangerous going forward, whilst also looking quite stable going backwards. We've mentioned on this podcast, many people have mentioned it, we needed a left back, right? That was evident for all to see. And okay, we have a left back, but the process and how we got here, it's like banging your head against the wall, because this left back situation, we could and should have had Reguilon, but United didn't want anything to do with the clauses that Madrid wanted to put in there. Okay, fair enough. But then the Telles saga went on way longer than it should have. Luke Shaw, I agree with you on Luke Shaw. This will either make or break him. Before the leg break under Louis van Gaal, he looked like he was going to turn into some player. He started to pick up some form. Bad injury, and he's never been the same player. We say this all the time about players coming from the Portuguese league. You don't know what you're going to get. It is like a bag of revel. So, Telles, he could have a similar impact in terms of like a Bruno Fernandes. He could be a revelation. He could nail that left back spot down straight away, and that could be one less area for concern. But we don't know this, and if he doesn't turn out to be any good, then people will just go back to this transfer window and how rushed it was and how unprepared we were and how we should have done all this business, long before we did. So I'm happy they've got Telles. I'm just dead against the process and how we got here, I guess.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. The process needs to be streamlined hugely. You look at, Ben Godfrey, he's gone to Everton for 25 million. Telles is, give or take 10 million less. That's an established player who's just been called up to the Brazil national team. And, like you said, he's great going forward. His goals and assist record is really good. He's desperate to come and play for Manchester United. Why are you arguing over 6 million? I don't understand. It doesn't make any sense to me. Like, this is just wasting more time. All you're doing is just, making a short process, or what should be a short process, longer. And this again boils down to people not understanding a footballer's value. Because if you have a director of football that knows a player, they're like, no, get it done straight away. We want him in. It's not a problem. But when you have spreadsheet guys, these accountancy B-Tech fucking wannabes that run the club, they don't get it. Ed Woodward's not going to look at a left back and go, oh, he looks like a player. This is the same guy that said Bastian Schweinsteiger at 86 was going to send shivers down people's spines. Do you know what I mean? What's this? Yeah. Know anything about anything? And it's frustrating. It is, bro. It is. But look, again, Telles is on board right now. Again, we wish him well. Hopefully he does well. I think he'll be an interesting signing. Out of all of the signings, I'm actually very interested to see how he does, because United really needed another left footer in defence. And look, when I go back to player value very quickly, we're touching upon the defence, so I'll bring it up now. Chris Smalling going to Roma. Jesus Christ, here's another one that's taken about 80 years to get done. United were arguing with Roma over 5 million, right? So I think he's gone now, Smalling.
I think he has gone.
Yeah, 15 million plus 5 million in add-ons, right? When you're a big club, sometimes you're going to have to take a hit on players going out, especially if you give them unmanageable contracts. And what I mean by that is Manchester United are giving players like Chris Smalling 150 grand a week. Clubs in Serie A and La Liga, they're not going to give those same wages to those clubs. They don't exist in that realm. No one is looking at Chris Smalling in Serie A and La Liga going, we've got to give this guy 150 grand a week. It's a necessity. It doesn't happen. And that's why they're struggling to get rid of these players. Now, United, again, why they didn't just accept 15 million at the start of the window, be done with it and use the funds towards someone else, I don't know. But again, the process, bro. I mean, what's your take on the whole Smalling saga?
Well, yeah, you've kind of summarised most of it, but we're talking about one situation where we're arguing over 5 or 6 million for Telles, and then we're sort of splitting hairs over fees for players going out who could provide us with that money that we're arguing over for other players, So it's like, you're only offering 15, we're looking closer to 20. It's Chris Smalling, hasn't played for us for years. He isn't going to play for us again. He's surplus to requirements. A club that actually, I never thought I'd say this, a decent-sized Italian team really want Chris Smalling. He played very well for them last season. They want him so badly. Just accept the offer. Don't waste time. United have so many other deals that need to be done in the opposite direction, and you just put in all this unnecessary wasted energy in talking. It's like me and you arguing over a couple of pennies, isn't it?
That's all it is.
One of us or the other
person, all it is.
Which is what 5 million is to them. So, it wouldn't have at all surprised me if he'd have stayed and Solskjaer would have given him a go, because we haven't got that much better here. But I think it's a good move for Smalling. He wanted the move because he did well there last season. And I wish him all the best. He looked like his career was on the rebuild in Serie A. So it's the best place for him.
Yeah, it is. The style of football suits him because, it's a relatively slow style, but he's still got that pace and physicality. And Chris Smalling, he does have a major error in it. And is he an upgrade on Bailly and Lindelof? Okay, on a good day maybe, but to be honest with you, I think they're all as bad as each other. None of them fill me with any confidence. So shout out to Chris Smalling though for the service to Manchester United. I wish him well in Roma. Clearly it's a move he wanted. Just to end this very quickly on Manchester United, because like I said earlier on, I want to ask you a question next about centre-backs. I find it very difficult that Manchester United are taking the moral high ground with these clubs and saying, well, we're not going to give you the extra 10 million for Jadon Sancho, and we're not going to give you the extra 6 million for Telles, yet do the exact same thing to Roma during a pandemic, a club that is not financially as stable as them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sums up Manchester United well. Just going back to the centre-back situation, obviously our transfer videos will be out in January, which is not too far away. It's going to come up on us pretty quickly. So the likelihood is, I imagine it'll either be me or Vecchi doing that again. But from a centre-back perspective, I think, again, before United can bring in centre-backs or a centre-back, there's a few more to get rid of. So, for example, they need to get rid of Jones. How you do that on his contract, I just don't know. Marcus Rojo, they cannot give Marcus Rojo away on his contract. So those two need to go. Then you establish which one of Bailly and Lindelof goes. For me, it's Bailly. He's too injury prone. He's too erratic. I've said a million times, Bailly is the African Phil Jones. He's got to go. I don't know what you do with Tuanzebe because he's consistently injured as well. Lindelof is, all right, a third or fourth choice centre-half at best. Mengi coming in, looks decent. He's going to be a prospect, but he's a long way away from being a Manchester United first-teamer. So who do you partner Harry Maguire with, Vecchi? If I say to you, right, okay, next summer, or even January, but likelihood is next summer, you can get one centre-back. I think I know who you'll say, but I wanted you to give your opinion to the people.
Yeah, I think you know what I'm going to say because I have mentioned him quite recently. I think we should agree with me. The only logical centre-half that United should look to buy is Deo Upamecano from Leipzig. Yeah. And a bit of context as to the reason why I pick him. It's because United are at that kind of crossroads now where they can't mess about with centre-halves anymore. You look at the Van Dijk situation. Liverpool had defensive issues similar to what's going on at United prior to sort of Jurgen Klopp, even during part of Jurgen Klopp's reign, but under Rodgers and managers before that, where they just didn't have a good centre-half partnership. They brought in Van Dijk and that changed. And the only centre-half that I really see out there that could potentially have that impact is Upamecano.
Yeah,
and
I agree.
We watched him in the Champions League this year. I said it, you said it, Reece said it, the whole of social media said it. He just looked so comfortable. He came up against some of the best strikers, forward players in the Champions League, and he just looked like it wasn't a problem. He looked disciplined, he looked quick, he looked strong. And all right, you know, they got knocked out in the semi-finals, but he didn't make a mistake. Just everything just looked so controlled and calm, and that's exactly what we need in a centre half. We've wasted money on. You look at Rojo, you look at Lindelof, Bailly. Arsenal have done it. You know, you look at Gabriel Pellistri, Socrates, the list. You know, Mertesacker. You can easily throw 20, 30 million at centre halves that aren't good enough, and I think you just need to get out of that trend. You know, what would he cost? Maybe 60, 70, 80 million pounds, who knows? But he would be my choice, and the only other name player would come to mind would be Koulibaly then. But it would be Upamecano would be my first choice.
Yeah, apparently Upamecano has some sort of release clause that comes into play next summer. So again, there might be a bit of a scrum for him because he is a big player. The one thing that he offers that the Manchester United defence lacks is two things: strength. He's not about to get bullied by anyone, and pace. That pace. Harry Maguire, I'd be very confident in Harry Maguire being a good player if he has a pacey, consistent centre-half beside him. Someone that can do the leg work, and Harry Maguire then can do the rest. So, yeah, I'm with you, bro, on that. That would be my pick. Again, obviously, all you other United fans out there, let us know. If there is another centre-half out there that you think would be a good choice, I'm interested to find out because in terms of elite up-and-coming centre-halves, I don't know of too many. Ben Godfrey was actually linked with United before the Everton move, but I think he's a few steps away from that type of move. So, yeah, Upamecano seems like the guy. Okay, right, transfer window stuff again. So back to it, because we got so much to unpack. Now, two of the more surprising deals. Now, one of them I was very surprised with. The other one, not so much, because I've been following a lot of the deals on Twitter over the past few days. Now, when Cavani came up, there was a Uruguayan journalist that was very adamant that United were also in for a young Uruguayan talent called Facundo Pellistri. I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name right. They call him Facu or Facu. I don't know how they say it out there, but we'll call him Facundo for now. So Facundo Pellistri. Now, it's costing 9 million. I know very little of him other than Diego Forlan recommended it. The last recommendation United had was Giggs and James, and I said about that. Apparently, this kid is a special talent. Now, he's in South America. He is one of the top talents in Uruguay, not just Uruguay, South America in general. The fee is only 9 million, which I think is a very good fee for someone that young. And he's worth a chance. By all accounts, he plays on the left and the right. He's I'm going off what people are saying because I've never seen him play. He's very similar to a Pavel Nedved, apparently. Now, we did a video previously on Pavel Nedved on our channel. Shameless plug if you want to watch it. Go watch it. But that signing, Becky, what do you make of that? What's your take on
it? These signings, they're very much, I don't want to say they were nothing signings, but you think where United are at the moment and the type of deals that they need to do, these are very much deals for the future. And I know nothing about this lad Pellistri and the other lads which we'll mention in a second, Traoré. I don't know a huge deal about any of them. And if he's being recommended as a young up-and-coming talent or a wonder kid, if you look, if it's only £9 million, then of course, you take these risks because if you don't, other big clubs will. Yeah. So, deals like this, you have to take a punt at, and we'll see what this kid could maybe offer in the next sort of 2, 3, 4, 5 years time. But these aren't sort of deals that I read too much into in the now, because I highly doubt we're going to really hear anything much from them anytime soon, So
yeah, I got you. Yeah, well, the general consensus is he's going straight into the first team. He may play some under-23 football as well, but that's a big move for a young lad. Going from Uruguay, where culturally it's very different, the language is different, the weather is different, the food is different. Football is very different. His reputation in Uruguay exploded. He's very, very highly rated, like I said, not just in Uruguay, but in South America overall. And by all accounts, his move to Lyon was very, very close, but it collapsed for whatever reason. And I think United came in and they stole a march. And look, if you can buy a player like that at a young age and develop him, and he develops like the way we hope he's going to develop, that's going to look like a steal. But, I mean, time will tell. I'm a lot more comfortable with that price than I am the price they paid for Dan James, because I felt like they overpaid for Dan James, whereas that price there, I'm comfortable with it. I'm okay with it. But that then leads me next on to the bro, like this, the Traoré deal has flabbergasted me, the money involved. 30 million euros, right? Now, I don't know what that equates to in pounds. I haven't gone away and done the currency conversion, but Traoré, again, I was doing a bit of research on him literally a couple of days ago, and one of the, shout out to Sports Witness as well, because they always put interesting stuff up. They put on that United wanted him, but they were unsure about bidding for him because they weren't sure of his age. Now, that whole African footballer thing where you don't really know his age, is he 18, is he 38? We really don't know. So United are kind of put off bidding for him. Now, all of a sudden, United's hesitancy meant Parma were going to come in, and Parma had agreed to loan him for the season. Now, all of a sudden, that move has collapsed, and United are spending 30 million euros on him. Now, he's played probably about, by all accounts, 25 minutes of first-team football. I'm just wondering where that figure has come from of 30 million euros, because obviously he's a talented boy, right? But he could be anything. He could be Cristiano Ronaldo. He could be another Memphis Depay. Well, again, what's your take on that situation?
This one is a bit more strange again for me, because with the Pellistri one, like we discussed, it's very low risk, that one. You're talking fees such as £9 million. That's sort of pocket change to clubs like Manchester United.
Yeah.
We're talking around £30 million, and you say, I don't have the currency sort of exchange rate at hands, but to me, that's probably the middle or higher ends of 20-odd million pounds, that one. For a player, as we've said, that's registered 25 minutes of game time. I don't understand that. I can't really give you much of a justification on that one. Do they know something that we don't, or that people on social media don't seem to know?
Bro, I don't have a clue.
I don't see this deal actually being done, by the way. I know I've seen, I've checked social media and I've seen that it has picked up quite a bit of traction. but I think it's going to be one or the other with these lads. And I think it would be absurd business, and it would pretty much sum up United's transfer approach if they were to pay, anywhere around £30 million for this Traoré lad. If you're asking me.
I'm just reading it now, bro, actually on Twitter. So Ousmane Traoré is costing an initial 18.2 million with a further 9.1 million in add-ons. So it looks like it's pretty much done. I'm interested to see where United incorporate these players, because they're both wingers, right? So from what I gather, they can both play either side, which that flexibility will prove to be very beneficial for them as they develop. But again, going back to where you include them, what do you do with a Tahith Chong? All of a sudden, why did you know? If you knew you were getting these two wingers, why are you still in possession of Daniel James? Do you know what I mean? All of a sudden, you've got Chong and James, you've got Mata and Lingard, you've got Rashford and Greenwood, plus you want to incorporate Sancho, then you've got to find somewhere for Mata. It doesn't sound that well thought out. And, I mean, look, Traore's not going to arrive until January, at which point, I'm sure United can offload some players. But again, what do you do with him? I mean, United need quality to go into the first team now. I don't doubt that he's a talented boy, and if they bought Sancho alongside him, I'd be like, nah, fair enough, okay. Mm-hmm. But I just don't understand what you do with the two of them. Like, do you know what I mean? You can't put them in the big games because you can't trust them. I don't know if you can put them in any games right now because you can't trust them. So what
I think most Manchester United fans would be asking very similar questions. And I don't really think that we really have the answers, because at the moment it seems like they just keep picking up cards from the deck. They just keep picking them up. What about this one? What about this one? Not that one. We'll try this one. We'll pick this one, and that's what it looks like to me. And hoping that they just keep picking up players or like of different approaches. We'll go for an older player, experience. We'll go for a young player. But there's just so much going on that there's no clear plan in place or blueprint of what they want to do with any of these players. I think they're just hoping that something will come off, and it's a bad strategy.
Yeah, it's the old saying: if you throw enough shit against the wall, some of it will stick. Bro, Pellistri, I get. Look, he's been recommended by Diego Forlan. You think 9 million? It's not a bad little punt to take. At the end of the day, you might lose a couple of million on him. You might gain a couple of million on him. When you start bidding 30 million for someone who's just had a loan move that's collapsed, I don't know, bro. Traoré may go on to be one of the best in the world, right? One of his teammates said he was incredible, and it's like watching a young Lionel Messi. I'll reserve judgment. Now, again, we'll see. Like I've said, I wish him well. But yeah, bro, that is essentially the transfer window. I mean, I'm exhausted talking about it. I know you're probably the same. And all the United fans watching, thank you for sticking with us. Is there any other loose ends you want to tie up, bro, before we go? And this after this 22-week marathon that's occurred?
I actually don't think there is. I think United's transfer dealings has depressed and frustrated and exhausted me enough over these last 22 weeks, as you say. So, I think the next part is very much let's wait and see. Yeah,
let's wait and see indeed. All right, so to everybody that's watched, thank you. Remember, leave your comments below. Anything you want to discuss, keep us posted. We'll discuss it with you, whether it's in YouTube in the comments or on IG or Twitter. Twitter, we're very, very active. So if you want to get in touch with us, let us know. But don't forget to subscribe. Obviously, subscriber counts building all the time. Don't forget to like, because it goes into the algorithm and other United fans will see it. And just make sure you stay tuned. There's plenty more coming from us for the rest of the season. And we'll be back next time, people. Take care. Ciao.